From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parshat Re'eh, mystery of Maaser Sheni, mystery of the second tithing. Parshat Re'eh describes mitzvah of that you should take 1/10, Aser Taser, and then you should bring it to Makom Asher Yivchar Hashem, the place that God has chosen. Usually when you have a Maaser, when you have a tithing, you have a gift to give from your produce, give it to the Kohen. That's called Truma. You give 2%. You give 1/10 to the Levite. What is this business that you take 1/10 and you take it to Jerusalem and you eat it? That's not a tithing. It's something for you to eat. So the very strange mitzvah, the second tithing. You take 2%, give it to the Kohen. Truma. Take 10%, give it to the Levite. Maaser. 1/10, the tithing. And then you take another, in most years, you take another 10%, and you take it to Jerusalem and you eat it over there. What's going on? What kind of mitzvah is this? So the Torah says what kind of mitzvah? The Torah says, that if you do this, you'll learn to fear God forever. What does this got to do? If you eat food in Jerusalem, you fear God? So Rashbam says it's very simple. It's like modern trips to Israel. They're inspirational. You go there. In the olden days, you would see the Kohanim Avodatam. You would see the priests dedicated to the service of God. Leviyim Duchanam, you see the Levites singing on the steps. And the Israel Mamadam, there were Jews who volunteered to come there that week to pray and fast and read the Torah that week. That's all they did. Be so inspired by them, you would come to learn to fear God. Sefer HaChinuch describes that a person might not be able to go. Not everyone has so much time to go to Jerusalem and eat all that food. They have to stay home and work. They might send one person from their family, one child. He would sit there. He would see the Sanhedrin, and they would learn. And he would learn so many things. He comes back and he inspires and teaches the family. It's an educational experience. I like to call it an educational fund. You set aside 10% of your produce to go to Jerusalem to support your vacation in Jerusalem, to be inspired, and that will inspire and educate your family. So who are you going to see? Kohanim, Levim, and Israelites, all the Jews in their full action. Verse in Malachi says, Ki sifsei Kohen yishmeru das, that it's the lips of the Kohen that preserve the knowledge. Maybe you go to see the Kohen, and he's inspired. Tosfos connect this with the notion that Kimitzion Tetzei Torah, that it was once a notion that if you want your children to learn, send them to Jerusalem, and they have a school there. But some people couldn't send their kids to Jerusalem, so they had to make local schools. But the idea was Kimitzion Tetzei Torah, that you should learn Torah, specifically Davka from Yerushalayim. So according to Rashbam, Tosfos, Sefer HaChinuch, the idea of Maaser Sheni, this second tithe, is to educate the family, to inspire through this Israel mission, the Jerusalem mission. However, the Rambam in the Moreh Nevuchim says, no, it's not because about Torah or even avoda, worship of God in Jerusalem, but rather it's about milas chasadim. It's about kindness. The purpose of going to Jerusalem is so that when you get there, you have 1/10 of your produce. Not just picture it. Let's say someone is a big farmer, whether it's dates, figs, wheat, whatever it is. You have a big farm. You have your own family plot, plus you bought other plots over the time of the Jubilee year. And 1/10 of that would be quite a bit of produce. If you were reaping grapes, it'd be a lot. Now, you can't bring the grapes. Torah says if you can't bring the grapes, you bring the money commensurate to those grapes. Bring a sack of coins, and then you have to buy food. It could be wine. It could be oil. It could be meat. You buy that with the money from the produce. And that's a lot of money. How are you going to eat that much food? So obviously, the Torah says you'll share it with the Levite, who's poor because he's landless, with the poor, with the widow and the orphan. So doing that, similar to the Maaser Behema, the 1/10 of animals, also you bring them to Jerusalem, you get to eat it, but how are you going to eat a whole animal? So you bring guests. It's a matter, it encourages milas chesed, it encourages kindness, but of a certain kind. You see, if you wanted to just give pure charity, we do that every 3 years. We cancel this tithe and we just give the money directly to the poor. This is a little different. It says, you go and eat and have the best time of your life. Eat whatever you want. However, while you're there, you're never going to be able to eat that much. So you're going to share it with the poor. Reminds me of the Mishnah of Perek Yavos. It says, "You aniyim b'nei beisach." How do you support the poor? Not by giving them handouts in the street or having them knock on your door. No. Tell them, hey, come over for dinner. And why don't you come by for lunch tomorrow? And, after all, I have a wonderful breakfast. My wife is a great cook. Why don't you come? And you keep inviting them. And before you know it, you subsidize half their living. They don't have to cook for Shabbos, for lunch, for breakfast. You do it all. You say, we have extra chopped meat in the freezer here. Take some. We've got it from Chicago. We don't need it anymore. And before you know it, you're basically subsidizing other people. And they feel like they're just eating in your house because you're friends of yours. But actually, you're doing a tremendous act of charity. This is the type of charity that Maaser Sheni is, type of Gemilas Chesed. It's a charity where you're eating and they eat with you. You have a big feast. You come out in the street, you take a barbecue pit and you start barbecuing. And people come and they say, hey, it smells good. You say, hey, Drew, have some. Somebody else comes. Everybody have some. And you got plenty. There's no shortage. You're trying to get rid of 10% of your produce. So it becomes a big party and no one feels demeaned by the tzedakah. So we had two possibilities. Is Maaser Sheni, the second tithe, an educational fund? Set aside money so that go, like today we set aside money to take a trip with the family to Jerusalem, trip with the family to Israel, to be inspired. Or no, this is a Gemilas Chesed fund. This is a charity fund. It's like all other charities. The charity is a charity simply to share the food with others. Now, notice, depending on which one it is, what's the purpose? Is the purpose here that every now and then I go to Jerusalem and my real life, the real spiritual life is in Jerusalem? We know, according to Sefer Chinuch, the idea is to bring that life from Jerusalem, bring it back to your house. As it says, Laman tilmad liyiras Hashem lokach kol hayamim, all days. It's for your whole life, all the years, to be able to fear God and to learn how to live in front of God, not just in Jerusalem, but to bring them back home. The purpose of our educational experiences is to bring stuff home, to bring our experience back home. Now, this question as to whether it's an educational fund or a charity fund may relate to the Talmudic debate as to whether it's Mamon Hedyot or Mamon Gavor. What do I mean? So let's say someone said, here, it's a very valuable piece of paper. It's the Constitution of the United States, the original copy. I bought it for $1 million. I'm giving this to you, and with this, you're betrothed to me. That works. I take a ring, I give it to a woman and say, here, take this ring. With this, you're betrothed to me. It works. My glasses, here's some glasses. With this glasses, you're betrothed to me. They cost $300. It's a valuable thing. But what if you took truma? What if you took a sacrifice and you said, this sacrifice, which I'm giving to God, I'm giving it to you, honey. Giving it to God doesn't belong to you. Truma is not yours. I believe that's the case for truma. But what about Maaser Sheni? So that's a machlok. It's a debate between Reb Meir and Reb Yehud. Reb Meir says it's Mamun Gavor. You can't get married with Maaser Sheni. It doesn't belong to you. He said, it doesn't belong to you. What do you mean it doesn't belong to you? You take this money, you go to Jerusalem, and if you're a glutton and you want to eat the whole thing, you can eat the whole thing. It's totally mine. It's restricted, it's true, where I can eat it. I have to eat it in a state of purity. So there's some restrictions about it. So it's not unrestricted funds, but it's, other than that, it's my stuff. So why can't I betroth the woman with this wonderful stuff that I have? I might have $10,000 of this stuff. It's a lot of money. It's 1/10 of my income for the year. Say farmers only make $30,000. All right, so it's $3,000. So why can't you be married with it? Because it belongs to God. The other rabbi said, no, it's all right. You can get married with it. It's yours after all. So the question is, what are they arguing about? maybe you could look at it different ways. Maybe the one who says that it's a tzedakah fund, he says, yeah, it's yours. You know what I expect you to do with that? You're going to give it mostly to charity because you can't eat 1/10 of your produce. You can't eat $3,000 of food. You could try it, but a good restaurant, you could maybe do it. But basically, it's pretty impossible. So it's tzedakah money. You're going to marry this woman with your tzedakah money? That's not right. You're supposed to give it not to your friends. You're supposed to give it to the poor people. However, if you say that it's an educational fund, it's my educational fund. I was going to use it for my educational fund. Now you go to Jerusalem and you use it for your educational experience, your emotional, spiritual experience in Jerusalem. So what's the problem? So that's one way of looking. I was trying the other way. I'm not sure it works. You could say, if it's an educational fund, it's for Torah. For Torah, it's holy money. You can't get married with holy money. But if it's a charity money is not holy. It's restricted funds, but it's not holy. I'm not sure that works that way. But it might be related to this question. So I would like to suggest. Now, why should you get to Jerusalem? Why should a Jew go to Jerusalem? You could be inspired at home. So Rav Kook said that this mitzvah is a reflection of the fact that every Jew has a little bit of Kohen in them. You know, we're told to be a Mamlechet Kohanim. We're told at Sinai that we're supposed to be a priestly nation. So that means that every Jew is Am Kadosh. We're a holy nation. So usually, Kohen gets to be holy in the temple. If you're on Maaser Sheni, every Jew gets to eat holy food in Jerusalem. It's as if he or she is eating it in the temple, because it says, "Take it to Makom Asher Yivchar Hashem," place that God chooses. What's the place that God chooses? Jerusalem? Or no, not Jerusalem. The Temple Mount, the place of the Mikdash itself, the temple itself. You take the second tithe and you eat it in the sanctuary? No, you eat it in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is an extension of the Beis HaMikdash. When a Jew is eating Maaser Sheni, it's like a Kohen eating Truma. There's a line like that in Sanhedrin. It's talking about something else. Maybe it means the same thing, that when a Jew eats Maaser Sheni, the second tithe, in Jerusalem, it's as if he is a Kohen eating Truma, or even eating kachim, eating sacrifices in the temple. It's a reflection of our special status. We go to Jerusalem to remember we have that special status. So that's the idea of Maaser Sheni. It's very unusual. It's unusual because you give it, but then you take it. You eat it yourself, but not really. You're eating it either for educational purposes, to be inspired in Jerusalem, or to eat it for tzedakah purposes, because you can't eat it all. You share it with others. And this may impact the question of whether it's mamon hedyot, belongs to everybody, or it's mamon kavod, whether it belongs indeed to God. The purpose of it may be nothing less than to remind each Jew that we are part of a kingly nation and a priestly kingdom, and each person has some element of being a priest. Go to Jerusalem and eat that holy food. We remember that we too, indeed, are like the Kohen. I want to thank also Rabbi Uriel Eitam from Yeshivat Yerucham for teaching me some of these ideas as well. Thanks so much for joining us, and join us each week for the discussion of the holidays of the Parsha. And thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit asb.org.